Welcome back to R.A.I.N. This is part 4 of my video series covering etymology, lawful versus legal, and contracts. I left off with talking about an implied contract in part 3. I would like to pick up in my book, Who Are You? Knowing Your Ancestors, on page 96. It is always a great idea to have a law dictionary close by when reading a contract. Some words may not have the same definition that you're accustomed to in regular, everyday reading and writing. For example, the words may, must, and shall have meanings that may require qualification, depending on how they are used. Here are the words may, must, and shall from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. And what I will do is I will show you the definitions of these words, and I will also read them to you. Okay, beginning with may. An auxiliary verb qualifying the meaning of another verb by expressing ability, competency, liberty, permission, possibility, probability, or contingency. Regardless of the instrument, however, whether constitution, statute, deed, contract, or whatnot, courts not infrequently construe may as shall or must, to the end that justice may not be a slave of grammar. Alright? So it's telling you under may that may is equal to shall and must. Alright? Let's move on to must. This word, like the word shall, is primarily of mandatory effect and in that sense is used an antithesis to may. But this meaning of the word is not the only one, and it is often used in merely directory sense and consequently is a synonym for the word may. Not only in the permissive sense of that word, but also in the mandatory sense, which it sometimes has. So, under the word must, it tells you that it's an antithesis to the word may, or sometimes it could be the synonym of may. Okay? Keep that in mind. Let's move on to shall. As used in statutes, contracts, or the like, this word is generally imperative or mandatory, but it may be construed as merely permissive or directory, as the equivalent to may, to carry out the legislative intention, and in cases where no right or benefit to anyone depends on its being taken in the imperative sense, and where no public or private right is impaired by its interpretation in the other sense. So same thing with shall. It could be used in a directory sense, or it could be in an imperative sense. Let's continue reading. Do you see the double meaning of the words above? If you come across these words in a contract, always ask in what way they are being used. It could come down to you or someone else performing an action in a mandatory sense or a discretionary sense. If something is misunderstood, it could lead to a violation of contract and a possible lawsuit for compensation. All right? So please be aware of those words when you are dealing with contracts concerning these colonizers. You come across these words, underline them, circle them, do whatever you need to, and you bring it to their attention, especially if it's one of their contracts and they're bringing it to you. Bring it to their attention and ask them what these words are used for, Is it a, a directory sense or is it an imperative sense? All right? Ask them. Because you don't want to violate a contract. Okay, I would like to cover some case law involving an unconscionable contract and any contracts that contain fraud. Unconscionable contract, one which no sensible man, not under delusion or duress or in distress, would make, and such as no honest and fair man would accept. As Franklin Fire Insurance Company versus Knoll. Now let's move on to fraud. Failure to reveal material facts of a license or any agreement is immediate grounds for estoppel. So, if a contract is lacking full disclosure, which is a form of fraud, you can stop whatever it is that is known as an imperative action that you must do according to that contract. All right? That's what the term estoppel means. You could stop whatever you had to do according to that contract if you find that that contract is fraudulent. All right? One more case law. There is no question of the general doctrine that fraud vitiates the most solemn contracts, documents, and even judgments. That's United States versus Throckmorton. And I apologize. The case law for let's see, let me reread it. Failure to reveal the material facts of a license or any agreement is immediate grounds for estoppel. That was Lobu versus Porazzo. All right. One way to get out of contracts is to do a rescission of signature. And if you detect fraud or if facts were left out, or for in other words, lacking full disclosure, if that contract lacks full disclosure, you can rescind your signature. But it's not mandatory to do that. One more case law. Last case law for this video. It is not necessary for rescission of a contract that the party making the misrepresentation should have known that it was false. But recovery is allowed even though misrepresentation is innocently made, because it would be unjust to allow one who made false representations, even innocently, to retain the fruits of a bargain induced by such representations. That's Whip versus Iverson. So, rescission of contract or rescission of signature is something that you can do, but it's not mandatory. When you detect that a contract is fraudulent or is lacking full disclosure, which is also a form of fraud. But that concludes this video series involving etymology, lawful versus legal, and contracts. Please do additional research. I gave you the basics on contracts, but it requires you to do additional research to get a better understanding of these subjects. On that note, bid you peace.